All right, guys. So first, I want to thank the CCL team for coming up and having a conversation with us today about moving the
No, you're not getting out of it. I am. That's the news is.
moving the curtain away today from how a high performing real estate team operates. Obviously, we have David, the kingpin of CCL, and his yeah, and his entourage. If you guys could, starting from Sky, right? Jillian. I'm terrible about names. I've only met you once or twice. So starting from Jillian, if you could introduce yourself and just kind of talk about what you do a little bit.
I'm Jillian. I'm the marketing director of CCL. I do a lot of listing coordination, so getting listings on the MLS, ordering signs, general marketing, so listing marketing, creating the website, helping agents like open house flyers and social media posts and anything that falls under the marketing.
On my paper, for sales, team manager, do a little bit of everything, recruiting, hiring, lead funnels, back-end systems, operations, accountability, anything and everything, have a little hand in.
I'm Sky. I'm the operations manager. I do what Mike does. No, so back-end systems, the data side of accountability, tracking. I originally started as a TC on the team, so.
Transaction coordinator. I heard cats for a little
That's funny. You definitely had that.
bit.
So to start this off, I'm actually going to go to number 5, and I want to talk about team management and culture. So David, as you were building this monster of a team, this super successful thing, how is it that you were able to set performance expectations, drive accountability while maintaining morale?
Wow, so I think that it morphed over time. When we started the team, it was not based upon the concept of having a team. It was more by mistake. And in 2016, when we came to KW, I used it as an opportunity to blow up the team and be more intentional about the way we were going to go this game. The way I looked at it is that there were 3 different distinct aspects of a life cycle for an agent. One, like $0 to $3 million when you're first getting into the business, and that a specific need and desire that those agents had. And then somewhere $3 to call it $10 million was another producer. It's how do I get from this and continue to grow? And then once I hit a certain number, what is it that we need to do to make sure that everyone stays and has the ability to have that growth? And I think those 3 pieces help build the culture. Because there's clear distinctions as to what it is you're trying to accomplish and how you're going to get there, and that's your goal setting. The thing that we leaned into, Mike, Sky, the team as a whole has leaned into is coaching and mentorship. So we created a coaching platform, or a less, and a mentorship platform along with masterminds, pods that allow our team to constantly have a back and forth communication. So we've never done this before, and we're going to screw it up. But the honest feedback is what allows us to.
So I want to talk a little bit about culture, right? So if you and your team could define the culture of your team, what would you call that?
I think that we're agent driven first. Sort of mentorship and coaching, education driven. And then our success is based upon those factors.
Awesome. So talking about helping agents do what they do and get from those different levels, can you talk a little bit about your lead generation and conversion?
Mike, Sky, because
Yeah, so we have several different lead funnels on the team. Those have grown throughout the years. Zillow Flex, Rover.com leads, Redfin leads, a system called Diverse Marketing. We just invested in a AI company to basically scrub any past leads we did not convert. And hope that we're increasing ROI on those by having a second chance to convert those leads that agents did not convert in the first go around. In terms of who's on those lead funnels and how you get on those, we were starting newer agents on Zillow Flex. Primarily because it's live phone call, and it's usually an appointment they want to set and they want to see the house pretty quickly. We revised things a little bit recently to require new agents joining the team to do at least 2 to 3 deals with their mentor. What we found is we had a set of criteria. We were plugging them into our lead funnel, but they didn't necessarily know to convert on those buyer leads. So now it's more or less co-work a deal with your mentor from start to finish and see that process through from lead inception to closing. And now when they get plugged into their own lead funnels and are getting their own buyers, a little bit more tuned in to what it takes to actually convert that lead and take them through. On the accountability front, it's all metrics driven. So on Zillow Flex, we need to maintain a 7.5% conversion rate on that. Realtor.com, for that to economically make sense for us, it's historically a 5% conversion. So that's how we dictate how many leads you're getting before we ultimately pause you to allow you to then convert those leads. So about 15 leads on Zillow before you're going to be paused and be expecting to convert one, and about 20 leads on Realtor.com before you do that. We add agents on to different lead funnels depending on how they're performing on the first lead funnel that we start them on. So if they're converting and doing well, what's that?
And their skill set, some people do really well with Realtor, well, Realtor.com just switched their model, but before it was all email prospects, and there are agents that we had that were crushing Realtor.com, and that's not a live phone call, and then absolutely, excuse my language, shitting the bed on Zillow Flex. And it's like, well, what are you doing on Realtor that you're not doing on Zillow? So we kind of tailor it to what each agent is good at too.
So what systems would you say that you use for consistent?
So we,
Loaded question.
yeah, David and I've had many conversations about this. Every team has their own kind of accountability model, and I think it's that fine line of not being too big brother. A lot of times you see teams that are too big brother, they have high turnover rate in their team. They don't want someone breathing their back. Everyone's an independent contractor and an entrepreneur at heart. So, but if you're joining a team, you want the accountability as well. So it's always that fine line of not pushing too much.
Yeah.
Lofty is really, that's our CRM that we use. That's how we track based on new leads. Each agent has been allocated. This guy's keeping an eye on that lead count. And then looking at conversion rate. We encourage our agents to do the 7 days of hell. And it's basically 2 touches a day for 7 days. And if you're doing that, chances are you're going to have a high success rate. You're doing follow-up that way.
So as far as, you guys talked about Lofty, what automations have made the biggest impact for your agents?
We've tried multiple things, actually. We, a couple, maybe like fall last year, we were trying to automate the follow-up process more. And we're all real estate agents in here, and raise your hand if you actually like your CRM and using it. Okay, we want 2, 3, you don't count. So we had a system in place where we wanted the agents to move their pipelines, and then it would start this automated follow-up process. That didn't happen, not because we did it wrong, because it's hard to, like, you're doing so many things, agents don't want to use the CRM. So I'm being completely honest, we don't have a lot of automation right now. I think the biggest, what we just invested in, the AI platform that's kind of doing it for us, is our next venture into automating that.
Automating follow-up for the agents is a tough thing because there still need to be manual touches that are done. So if they were moving them to the right pipeline status of unresponsive or short-term nurture, we can do an email drip for them. But if they're not updating the pipeline once they get in contact with them, Now that lead's gonna be a hit message that doesn't necessarily pertain to where they're at in the process anymore. We can't make manual phone calls for you. We can't automate sending texts.
Well, we can,
And-
but.
But then it hasn't, you know, on that, it doesn't look personal. So you need agent cooperation and it's not always the easiest to do. And if an agent's converting, I don't think it's right to slap, you know, a mandated follow-up schedule on them. Obviously, what they're doing is working.
So in saying that, right, not micromanaging how they do business, how do you, how would you say that you track ROI on the leads and stuff that they go out to?
What?
So I track for sure.
Oh, yeah, he does the money stuff. Well, Mike and I, so Zillow is they have their own metrics that we get from them every week. And then for our other platforms, I manually pull like our conversion and then David actually does the math.
Yeah, the ROI, the agents don't care about. Just running the team, I make sure that we're actually. Level.
Right.
The metrics that everyone cares about is ultimately. When am I going to continue to get leads and when do I get cut off? So if there is a conversion point on there, that's the ability to make sure that we're making. So at a 7.5% on Zillow or a 5% voter.com or walk it down each one of our lead funnels. There is a conversion that's required for it to continue.
Got it.
And there's different models for each lead. Zillow is a referral fee paid at the end of the deal, or Realtor.com or purchasing upfront
Right.
for the agent. So the different dynamics of return.
So for the ops side of the house, what does your admin ops flow look like from contract to close?
I'll let Lauren handle that, but we basically blew up our entire operation. We had Lauren and Jillian join the team and Noelle and Melissa, who used to be with us, both transitioned to become an agent on the team. So it was just a good opportunity in a window to revamp our entire systems. We used Typeforms previously. Lauren was previously using job forms and we liked how intuitive and easy that was to do. But in order for operations to do any assistant, if you're a single agent, you have an assistant, the assistants can't read minds and they've never been to the house that you're trying to post. So you have to come up with a system that extracts the appropriate data from the agent so that we can then go and do our job and be more efficient for them. But I'll let Lauren elaborate more on the side from contract to close.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing in terms of our team process is finding something that works for 50 deals under contract, 100 deals under contract, or 50 deals under contract. So we've been working on, I kind of came in, I wasn't previously with a team, I was with a separate business. So a mindset shift for me to be part of a team and walk into a team culture, but also be given a lot of leeway to do a lot of changes. So we started with adjusting some of the forms and form language that we had. I know a lot of people feel some type of way about using forms because you might think that it's impersonal. The way I look at forms is that gives me information I need to make it personal to someone. So when I have the right information about my agents and their clients, it means that when between the scheduled emails that we have to the emails I'm answering on the fly, I can incorporate what I know of the situation and make it look more personal instead of making it just look like a robot is consistently sending out emails. Now we do have that. We have lots of, scheduled emails based on, seller side, buy side, what's happening in the transaction, reminders about deposits, all the very standard kinds of items. And you need that so that you can keep increasing the volume without overwhelming a TC. Like we were just talking about with the leads, how do you balance that, making that personal for every follow-up, but also making sure that you're actually doing all of the follow-ups. So that's kind of a big thing that we've been working on over the past couple of months is how do we get to the point where as the team grows, our process can grow, but it stays manageable for the people who are inside of it.
And shore up any holes in the system. So what we were finding before is we were either doing individual things for each and every agent. And the TC, or the marketing director, needed to know how that person individually wanted their things done. As you're trying to scale the team, it can't be that way. It has to kind of be one model that works for everybody. And if something was dropped along the way because there was an email thread of 5 different exchanges back and forth, and someone on the 5th email asked for something, sometimes that got lost in the shuffle. So when we redid the systems, it was to eliminate any holes in the system. There's receipts for everything. Either someone submitted a job, wanted that information, they did not. And that has allowed us to be more efficient for both the agent and the team.
Yeah, I would add that it gives a level of accountability for us as a leadership team, knowing that the information has been provided. And that if there's a ball dropped, we know where it's dropped and we have insight onto it. And it allows Lauren to have a consistent workflow so that she's not ever scraping along looking for answers to questions that should be in front of her. Lauren, I don't want to. 105 pending files right now.
Yeah, so when we walked in this morning, we had 105 we had 4 or 5 closings already today and 1 termination. So I think we're at like 98 right this second.
But that conceptually, having a consistent flow and process that is repeatable and managed allows you to do that at that level and not actually be overwhelmed. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
It's not overwhelmed, David.
The way it was when you were working in the previous company, where it was each agent had a different process, different platform.
Definitely. Previously, as a third party company, there's definitely a lot of things that you want to do to try to make each individual agent or section of agents as happy as possible, which obviously you still want to continue to do on a team, but because you have this concept of a one team, one process, one flow, it does make it different. David and I have talked a few times. I think a really good TC can handle 60 to 75 days based on their process and their agent's processes. Man, that makes it sound like a humble brag now that I'm saying that. But I think that that's a scalable thing too. 40 deals can feel really overwhelming if you don't have a good consistent process in place. 100 deals can feel less overwhelming if you have a really good system in place. That's what we've been chasing.
So let me ask you, right? You've got 100+ deals happening at any given time. When something goes wrong, when the ship is sinking, what are you guys doing to help bail the water out?
Great.
Do you guys have any operational processes like that help you navigate that?
I would just say that the one thing, this is again going back to culture, is no one up here is putting the finger in somebody. When there is a breakdown, the answer is let's solve the problem and then let's figure out how it happened so that we don't have it happen again. And I think that culturally that means that we're working as a team no matter what, instead of there being this discontent of somebody feeling like the outsider, somebody feeling like the scapegoat.
Yeah. I'll put it on blast, obviously for a team that does most of our work in PA and New Jersey, some of the Delaware processes have been interesting to incorporate and make sure that we're, providing that same level of support that we know we can do in Pennsylvania down here in Delaware. We were just talking about the pay at closing form, which is not something that traditionally we've worked at, but now we're trying to figure out how we can make that as easy as possible for the team to incorporate in the process, because there have been a couple bumpy, times trying to work it out and make sure that the agents have what they need. So we're exactly this is the team culture. This is the team culture in action. It is that seeing a problem and wanting to address the problem so that moving forward, that's not.
You would say that teamwork makes the dream work in that case, yeah.
I would hesitate to ever say that, but yeah.
So I want to switch things up a little bit. So I want to switch things up a little bit. You guys are a large team, and you have a lot of agents that want to be known. So from a marketing branding standpoint, how do you keep branding consistent across all platforms?
This is something we actually recently started to implement, but we're trying to make everything a similar vibe, for lack of better words, so like our templates for like open house posts, just listed, just sold posts, or listing presentations. Everything is kind of one template that we can tweak for each person, but they all essentially look the same. But people can be flexible and like change parts they want to, but we're trying to make it so like Instagram posts all look similar so that when you're looking at something, you can tell it's a CCL post or a CCL presentation, but just instead of like, I think you were saying this, but instead of making everything like personalized or different for each person, just getting on the same page, making everything a template, so that way we have that brand cohesion, and also it's not less work, but it's less
It's time.
yeah, spent doing things of getting that brand cohesion.
So I'm gonna dig in here a little bit and ask for some industry secrets here. But what content right now would you say is really performing? And like the behind that, like, is there anything special that you're specifically focusing on that's really pushing that?
So Julie and I just started doing like a CCL podcast. We haven't released anything yet, but the idea behind it is getting agent recognition. We have a lot of top agents that are performing $10+ million cancers on the team. Or a new agent who's just starting, who is really taking a hold of our structure and excelling quickly. That's only 6 or less months in the business. And I want to highlight that. So we just did our first 2 interviews. It's me, kind of just very conversational style. And that's kind of our goal, to get some recognition for our agents that is just different than posting an Instagram post for them.
So with all this, like with all this volume, all these homes that you're putting on the market, how is your marketing team structured? Is it just you? Do you have VAs? You got a ton of people helping you out? I know it's a village probably.
So Michelle, our VA, helps with like open house flyers, but everything else is kind of what I do. What was the beginning of your question?
So I was asking how your marketing like team is structured. So you're saying it's just you and a VA?
Yeah,
That's a lot of work, right?
yeah, but it's, now that we've kind of streamlined the processes, it's become a lot easier. Taking a lot of the work out of it and the time consumption, but
When we restructured everything, we looked at who's going to do what, who's responsible for what task throughout any process, whether that is a buy-side deal, or that's a listing, or that's an open house. How is it going to work, and who's responsible for doing that task? That we stressed that for months. We've met as a team to decide who's taking what, and we've tweaked that since then and reshuffled around responsibilities. And I think that's allowed our team to run on thin operations for how large we are, and we run very efficiently doing that.
That's awesome. That's a lot of definitely great. So guys, David, I know you and I have talked a little bit about profitability, financials, but how do you balance growth with profitability?
When I revamped the team in 2016, one of the things that I focused on was pulling myself out of sales, because I felt as long as, back up, 2013, 14, 15, 16, I did 50% of the team sales. We were about an $80 million a year team. I did about $45 million. And what I realized is that doing that was inhibiting the growth of the team and the agents on it. And if I was focusing on sales, that I wasn't able to focus on their growth, and my focus had to be elsewhere. So when we took the leap to come to KW and start that office, part of that revision was, how do I pull myself out of sales? And what does that look like for a team's growth perspective? So I laid out a plan that was over the next 24 months to get to a point where I was getting enough of my income back that I was comfortable with it. Where it went from there was really a matter of, now it's not about me, now it's about how much the agents on the team grow. So we created a mentorship program. We created pods for coaching of the team groups. And through that mentorship program, we've seen people take on leadership. Mike was actually one of the test pilots for this. He was not a mentor, he was a mentee. But through that process, Mike is now overseeing, before he took over the running the team, 5 or 6 agents that he was now mentoring, and they were people in part that he helped bring on. And so on and so forth. So the team went from at that point in time about a dozen people to about 70 people now. And that growth is not from me actively recruiting anybody. I don't know that I'm actually calling for the team. It's been organic. So I think Josh said today, he was calling on an agent that is meeting with next week. And that agent, ironically, used to be on our team. He was on our team because he was formerly a client of our agents who ultimately got his real estate license and then joined the team. That was more along the lines of how our team has grown. Is it's either agents they've worked with, it's clients in which they've had, it's people that they've met along the way that now want to get into real estate that they think would be a good fit. And what we found from a team standpoint is that those people are usually stickier because they're coming not just for a reason, but for the people. And there is an invested interest in that person, not just from the team, but from their mentor who feels accountability and a responsibility to that individual.
So,
So you asked about profitability.
yeah,
So I will tell you that I am very focused on numbers. But I also like to consistently try stuff. So I am willing to try stuff that I know will lose money for at least the next 6 months. To see if we can gain money off of it over the next 12. And they all hate me because I keep pushing it off of them, and I will tell you to stop at some point. I think we're trying 2 or 3 different things right now that may or may not work, but I'm willing to put forth the money for the next 2 or 3
He
years.
wants to fire us all and have the robots do our jobs.
I think that understanding what your baseline is that you're with on a return on investment is key. I also think understanding what your profit margin is and the minimum you're going to work towards is key. And when I hit that number, anything above and beyond that, I'm going to reinvest. Sometimes we'll dip below, and there's a few months, historically, we never lost money in any month until a few years ago. Now, January and February historically are really lean months for us, for a multitude of reasons. But we always wind back up and get us to a break even, and not every team or company can withstand a couple of bad months. We've been very fiscally responsible, and there is a slush fund for that as well. So there is a percentage that's put aside to build up for a rainy day so that everyone here is always taken care of.
so, in saying that, with the financial metrics, what are some key metrics that you're paying attention to that maybe, us smaller rainmakers or whatever are should be looking at?
Know your expenses. I mean, first and foremost, know what it costs for you to turn the lights on every single day and how much you need to do in volume on a daily basis. When you're making a deal with an agent, know whether you're going to make money off it or if you're losing money off it. Just to keep a person, sometimes losing money isn't the right decision, or taking less isn't the right decision. I mean, there's an agent that had left our team, and when they left, we actually made more money because they were mentoring so many people and they were making money off of all those people. The amount that we were making off of their sales was actually less than what was coming in. Knowing where that number is really important. Knowing what the accountability number is really important. What is the conversion rate they need to have? If I'm giving them 100 leads, what are they going to get me back? What are they going to get back? What am I losing? What would another agent do? And also understanding, and it sounds awful, but if you're going to give an agent X amount of leads, if the only thing they're producing is the leads in which you're giving, and they're not actually adding anything more than that, if they leave, are you really losing it? That those leads are going to somebody else in the team. Well, historically, we're all closing at the same rate. So if I give it to John or Jane, it doesn't matter. And I hate to say it, but if we're all closing at 7.5%, John and Jane are going to be equally as valuable with that. I mean, all their volume is coming from that. It's also on the value add for our team. Well, we realize is that there's different things for different people. Some it's mentorship, some it's coaching, some it's lead generation, marketing, transaction management. Each one has equal weight. It's understanding which one is most important to each.
So, I wanna shift gears a little bit and, I wanna ask from each of you, what's next? What's next for your team? Where are you looking at over the horizon?
Tell you for KW Empower, more, bigger. I want to continue to expand it. I think there is an economies of scale that we're only touching the surface of that can benefit every agent in our organization. And allow me to grow bigger and better, was possible. I think that CCL will grow as much as the agents and the leadership team that's out here wants it to grow. It's not gonna be able to find people along the way that I think are talented, that are interested in it. Meet this group, and this group will decide. I've decided that I think a lot more people than they do. And I say yes to a lot until they decided I'm out of my mind, and that's right there. So I'm no longer allowed to interview agents for the team. Which has been a good thing. So I think that at this point, I've created something that, I should say, we've created something that can go with or without me. And now it's up to them to decide how big they want it.
I know 2 years ago when I gave David the okay that I would be doing this, and I've been an agent for 9 years on the team, and David approached me 2 years ago to take on this position, and our conversation revolved around how many agents can we have in a certain locale, right? And is there a tap out point that you're going to hit there? I think with our new structure and the new systems, I'm a lot more optimistic that we could be bigger than I ever thought that we could. I thought 75 in Philly would kind of be that upper realm, but I think that we could actually grow agents and then still be able to maintain all the systems and everything that we have going on. And we continually add lead funnels, which is important when you're scaling and bringing on new agents.
For sure.
And we still have some many.
So we have about 15-ish minutes left, and I want to go back to the Is there anybody out there that has like a dying question that they want to ask the team?
What are some unconventional lead generation that you guys do?
As far as the team or what we're encouraging your agents to go out and do?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, open houses, that's how I built my business. That's how he built his business. When I joined the team, there was Rotor.com leads. That was about it, I believe, and rental leads as well, but 4 to 8 open houses a month. Coming onto the team, we just revamped this last month. There's new criteria. So before it was your full time and have a car. 2 criteria that you had to hit first. And then it was doing 9 rentals just to show your effort and just to get your feet before you got tapped into the buyer lead. So what we were finding is those new agents that we were tapping in just were not succeeding. They were hitting their lead cap of 15 or 20 leads. And we were almost I felt like the team was doing them a disservice by not preparing them well enough. So now coming in, it is full time, you have a car, you're doing 9 rentals, you're splitting 3 deals with your mentor. That is either sourced from the mentor or sourced by the mentee. So 4 to 8 open houses, you can go out there and gather your own leads. You can request past leads from us, we'll dump you 50. You can start calling through those and hope that you get one of the 50. And then we're encouraging them to be in the office 3 days a week. Never had set office hours, but as the team gets bigger, I hear a lot of people, I don't know who that person is, I've never met them. So I think it helps culturally, people start meeting. Every time you're full time, ask them to come into the office 3 days a week. I don't care if it's 2 hours or 8 hours, gives them the ability to just immerse themselves, be around people that are having conversations. And then we're encouraging that they're calling through at least 25 to 50 past leads of their mentor in hopes of, again, spurring a new lead that they can then split with their mentor there. So and then attending our masterminds and our team meetings is in that as well. shadowing their mentor on inspections, settlements, showings. And any mentor, they can hop around and do that, you know, to different people just to learn different strategies and different techniques. That answer your?
I would add to it that I was never great at sales. I was good at finding property and understanding numbers. So what I started doing, I don't sleep particularly that much either. So around 11 o'clock every single night, I got bored, started looking at anything and everything that was on the market that could be looked at a different way. And started running numbers on a lot of things that I just started noticing patterns in the market. And when it sent text the next morning, oh, this is what I just saw, if anyone's interested. And it was to my database. I had no idea who was an investor or who wasn't. But over that period of time, there's a group that raised their hand and said, I want to take a look at that property. I understand how the numbers work. Can we take a look at it? And I ended up with a group of investors through that process, from $100,000 to several $1 million. And through that, my business grew into investor developer based upon me just reaching out to that sphere of influence they now had, or past clients that were now looking to get into the first investment. That was the first way. The second way was when I had a client that was an investor, and after I established that, looked at stuff that was rentals, multifamily, and were inspired, withdrawn from several years back, and reached out to the old agent that had that listed. Didn't try to circumvent the agent, building relationships within the industry, and would see if they would be willing to still sell. And then being able to add value by going to stuff that was off market, because we can all put everyone onto a drip campaign on that cost. And everyone's doing the same thing. Where you can add value is you get a client for life and you have a relationship. And that's what I was trying to build. And that actually led to a multitude, many more deals, but I ultimately ended up with agents calling me when they had somebody interested that was off market, because they only had investors looking for it. And a lot of my stuff was sold off market through that process.
And I'll add on that, you know, obviously there's other ways, you know, Instagram marketing, direct mailers. I'm a big advocate on the team of pick 2 to 3 sources of business and become an expert in that, right? So if Instagram is going to be a lead source for you, treat it as such and make sure that you're posting every single day and have good content. Just doing it willy-nilly is not going to, you know, garner any leads from that. So it's really just picking 2 to 3 and going all in on those.
What about unconventional, where you have an agent on the team when he joined, texted, I'm not kidding, literally every person in his phone. I'm a real estate agent now, and now he's in the top 10, he's in the top, consistently in like the top 6 on our team, and just really putting yourself out there goes a long way.
So, what advice would you give someone who is wanting, that's what I missed.
In the marketing strategy, if you had known how your team was gonna blow up like it has, would you have used this same name? And I actually had 2 people ask me today, what does this even mean?
So Center City Listings is from 2003. And in 2003, when we generated the name, there were 2 things that were going on. One is that SEO was based upon your website's name. So if you had your name being something that was consistently searched, you were raised to the top of the rankings. So early on, it really benefited us. The second was that most teams, there weren't many, but most teams were named after an individual. And those that know me know that I do not like naming on anything. So having it named after something other than me was ideal. So at that moment in time, it made perfect sense. For it to transition to other geographical locations, we had toyed with different aspects of it. Delaware listings or Christiana listings or mainline listings. It became clunky. I think the name, as it consolidates, becomes more meaningful. I think CCL initials, there's so many things that no one knows what they mean. I mean, not to take myself a TWA, try to tell me that means to people, right? Try walking across, right? No one really remembers, right? So ultimately the initials will speak for themselves, and that'll just become. But at that point in time, it made sense. Good. 20 some years later, it's a little bit difficult to say it. Thank you.
Is there a reason you don't want to have your name, or is it just for?
So I would tell you that the team was started with myself, my then girlfriend, now wife. And her name was on everything because she is more of a extrovert. And the plan was that in 2007, my son was born, and we were still doing together, doing flips, renovations, adaptive reuse, ground up single family. He was supposed to come with us, and after 6 months after he was born, or 6 weeks after he was born, she turned to me and said, one of us has to go back to work, it's not gonna be hard. And fast forward, about 9 months later, her name was still on every single sign, and she called me and she goes, I don't know what this property is, where it is, or why they're calling me. Can you please take my name off of anything? And I said, whose name should I put on it? Because it's not gonna be mine. She goes, it's gotta be yours. And that was literally the first time. I was licensed in 99. And my first time I had a sign with my name on it was probably in 2000. And it was not by choice. It was out of necessity.
It is, when we were recruiting agents, I think that, I would say the majority, I'm not gonna say everyone, agents feel better about joining a team that is not based around another person, because there is a lot of ego involved in this industry. We can't deny it. We want a team where everyone can, how do I put this? We don't care if you want to brand yourself and you're on the team. So we want everyone to be able to be their own person. We don't, I wouldn't want to work for the David Snyder team, sorry. Because I'm just not that kind of person. I don't like that aspect of the industry. And I think that I tell David, we're the island of misfit toys. 'Cause we have all these different types of agents that I feel like I don't feel like they're like a lot of people that I meet in the industry.
And if you look at our marketing advertising, even when we accept awards, it is very infrequent. You probably name them for potential one center. For years, when my awards were being accepted, it was somebody else in the team was accepting. When we come up here, I'm seeing the pointer. I made her go up front. It's the way it works, right? It's more about their growth and their happiness.
I would say that the David's powered by CCL. It's not David's name. It's the first thing I say in an interview. Separate our team from the other team. And number one is always that I don't know of another team owner who isn't in sales and has pulled themselves out, other than David. So, and I don't think I appreciated that as enough before taking on this position and actually thinking that through and studying other teams. And I've yet to find another team or someone's pulled themselves out 100% themselves.
How many? 64.
Yeah.
Out of those 64, all of them producing?
We've gotten to a point that I'd say like 75% of the team is producing. At some level.
Yeah, I mean, we always have probably 6 people on the team that have been on the team for less than 6 months. So we're always bringing on new, there's always going to be people getting their footing, trying to get their first deal.
I think 54 people have done a deal or have a deal pending so far this year. And I think last year, was it 12 or 14 did over 10 million?
12 people for everything.
Have you ever had to let anybody go?
Yeah.
David likes to say they self-select off, but every now and then, they really just don't want to be.
That's a big, in a mix or?
It's usually people who just aren't working.
It's less about the financial decision. If a person is not costing me anything, then can they stay? Yeah, if we're not giving them more leads and they're want to be part of it and paying the bills and everything's fine, sure. It's usually more a cultural issue and an entitlement issue. When one person thinks they're greater than.
And I don't love that much, to be honest, the self-reflection. I think
Maybe.
there needs, I'd like to set criteria now. If you're telling me this is their full-time job, I'm not asking too much, it's for the bare minimum to help set you and your career up and be successful. But it's hard. And there's just too many, and they suck resources. I'm gonna be respectful of our mentors' time. If that's supposed to be, then operations.
Good thing they're in charge.
Kind of to that end, when it comes to like leadership conversations, hard conversations, accountability conversations, things like that, is that something that's mostly on the shoulders of, you know, most likely you, or is that something that kind of stratifies out through the mentorship program? Like, how does that?
I would like to think that I've taken a lot of problems and issues and stuff off David's plate to an extent. I think the mentor is always the first line of defense if someone needs help with something. I'm always available if that mentor's not. There's 11 mentors on the team, so they could always call someone else. David's available. Our team email chain pretty much acts like a
Oh my God.
gets out of hand sometimes, but when it was operating efficiently. People ask questions, they need a contract and instant they're getting that. Yes, there's better and worse in there.
Class.
But if someone has an issue with the systems, it's just a very, try to do everything very transparent. David's always ran the team very democratically, gaining consensus and then implementing and then up down start date of this is how it is. That's why we have masterminds. So we run through any new idea that we're going to implement into the team, get stress tested in there. So we'll think of the core model. I will present that to them and I'll say, tell me where the hole lies in this, or tell me why this does not work for the team at age. And a lot of times we'll tweak and revise. Just tweaks that you have to, make after that as well.
So to that, you know, when you are interviewing agents to join the team, are you looking as far ahead as identifying, you know, like leadership qualities in them that they may be able to take on a mentorship role, may be able to kind of handle some of that, you know, mentor first line of defense?
Yeah, we definitely want team players on the team, but frankly, I thought I could come in here and do a better job at it. What I've learned is that everyone's gonna tell you that they have a work ethic, and so unless you have almost barrier to entry things for them to push, that's your only way out, otherwise they're just going to flounder. That's not good.
So on the downtime, like when, downtime, when there's not much for a mentee to be doing, what does that look like for a mentee and mentor? Like, I've thought about bringing on somebody, and I'm like, there's days when I'm like, I don't have much going on, I'm not doing much. What does that look like?
I mean, I think they should be out there trying to get their own business as well, and that's where I think hosting open houses is a big thing. And even if we don't personally have the listings for them, someone at the office might, they could call down to different Keller Williams offices or any outlet brokerages, really, and sometimes that's frowned upon, but you can go out there and find and make business of your own. So I would put things in place, criteria that is going to help an agent excel.
There's so many agents now with Empower, like, I'll tell people if they don't know what to be doing, go on an inspection with someone else. It doesn't have to be you. Like, you use your resources that are being provided.
Yeah, shadow others, supplement inspections, shadow the house.
We on our team alone, the people don't like to do their We have a group of agents that are always asking for coverage too, so like if you hire someone, they wanna make a couple extra bucks, I don't know how often that happens. Here in this brokerage that people need coverage, but that is also something, they can make $50 to go open a door.
There's a criteria that we can in place and it's constantly as to what event fee is. And part of that is not just following style and different. You do that for businesses. I think success breeds success, so if they're coming to the office and they're like 4 or 5 different people, they're gonna be more prepared and they're turn up. And it's not just about showing, it's not just about settlements, not just about home inspections, it's the breadth of all of it. Even if it's not their open house and they're doing it alongside somebody else to see how somebody else does it, there's always something to do.
Even previewing properties just to see what's out there in the market to get a feel for what the market trends are. That's something they should be doing too.
And when I started, the person who I started working for was the candid king of Philadelphia. And before I was licensed, I had to go through every property that they bought. And memorize the floor plans of each one of the buildings, the square footages, the condo fees, the taxes, the view, the layout. So that when I was walking in for the first time, I was expert in those buildings. There is no reason that anyone, I can put my hand on the door in Philadelphia and tell you this layout is going to be one of 3 layouts. Basically uniformly for every row house. If it's a 3-story, you kind of know what you're gonna get. If it's a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, you kind of know what that's. There's some slight variations. And in finishes more than it is in play. No different than you can probably put your hand on the door of a home, of a property to say, on the home inspection, there's gonna be a double tap, an oversized breaker, a faulty GFCI. Like, we all know that they're gonna show up every single time, but that's because you've done it long enough. Okay? So, it's the same thing, they need to get to that same point. The only way they're gonna get there is.
So in respect to everybody's time, it is 2 o'clock. If you guys want to stick around for a little bit and have some private time or whatever, private conversations. Does anybody else have anything they're dying to know? Well, thank you guys so much for showing up. I sincerely appreciate it. And I know these guys do. Thank you.